Welcome back to another episode of the Agency Digital Podcast. Today we're joined by Vytenis Pakenas, the CEO at isLucid. Vytenis, it's great to have you here today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
So today we are discussing voice AI mainly. So where do you think it currently stands? And what do you guys do at isLucid? Just to give some context.
So starting from the big picture, where this voice AI is standing at, I would say we have many opportunities where to employ AI agents, interacting with our customers, with our internal stakeholders, and so on. Yet quite often we have high expectations and not so strong business cases in most of the scenarios, and we are just exploring where it's helpful, where it's not as helpful as it could be. And it ends up with us with doing multiple tests and just trying to figure out, like, okay, what is the biggest value for us? And talking about us and isLucid, we have a history, a journey when we started analyzing the voice conversations. For me personally, as a founder, voice as a subject was super interesting since 2019 when I sold my previous IT company. And I was like looking, okay, how we are chatting. My kid, now he's 11 years old, but at the beginning he was interacting naturally, touching and talking to all the devices around and trying just, to talk with it. And then it struck me that voice is one of the layers which is most natural for the humans. And based on this thesis, like, okay, how we can make voice interactions better for us when we're interacting with the machines, we started with Microsoft Teams extension, and the current company, what it does for the call centers, it analyzes all the conversations, all the calls, meaning we extract details like Lego building blocks for different kind of teams, from marketing to sales to customer success about these conversations. And at some moment in the time last year, we noticed that these Lego blocks, building blocks, are repeating conversation after conversations. And on top of this knowledge, we also built voice agents, meaning human no longer talks to the human, but rather talks to AI. And when there's additional sales opportunity or something, we are obviously connecting to a human, or we're trying to close conversation. But for the standard answers, like the same kind of repeatable Lego blocks, our AI is giving you the answers.
Now, Vytenis, there are like a lot of ChatGPT wrappers out there, kind of associated with voice AI and the use of voice AI, and they are deploying everywhere. So from your perspective, right, from your experience, where do you think it mostly makes sense to deploy, and where it kind of falls apart?
I think we always need to start from the fundamentals. Anybody listening to us and building the business is looking at the business numbers. At the end of the day, what is ROI? Did I actually save money by implementing one on another solution, or I lost money? Same goes for the sales related activities, like, did I sell more than I spent for some of the activities? And when we are looking at the voice AI, quite often with the hype for the AI, these hard numbers that actually decides, do you live or you die? We are being missed out at the beginning because there's a lot of hype. For us, we early understood that you need to be happy about the potential outcomes on the long run. So not a shiny, nice wrapped POC, proof of concept, which is running well on your standard scenarios, which you think is standard for you. And when you're jumping into repeatable high volumes of the calls, it's not standard anymore. First, now we are processing more than 1 million calls on a monthly basis. And from these calls, we are seeing that OpenAI, 11 Labs, and so on is good till you're not jumping on the high volumes of low value for you as a business conversations, because each call is coming with a cost. And then you always have alternatives. Like what AI is doing, it's giving you a promise that it will replace some of the humans. But this promise, business-wise, makes sense as long human is not cheaper than the AI itself. And it's not just the runtime, like what you are paying for the OpenAI for each of the token it generates. Also, you have onboarding fees. You have, in our scenarios, fees you are paying for your infrastructure, like phone connectivity and so on. You need to be sure you can trust AI. So somebody needs to overlook it. If it's a human, you are paying for your IT department or somebody more cheaper data labeling experts and so on, but still you're paying for something. We invested into building our own models to do the same kind of evaluation, but at the same moment, it still comes with a cost. So a rule of thumb is always look at the worst scenario, like unwrapping all the potential risks and the risk, and just focus, okay, the worst, I will be handling X amount of the calls. And for the price I'm paying, does it pay me back or not for annual payment, including also onboarding, also alternatives and so on. And in the market, there are a lot of great opportunities when you're looking at the telemarketing, at the sales-related activities. There are also big opportunities for the customer support when you have high volumes. And when it's coming to, if you're having 100 calls a month, maybe you don't need an AI. You just make a decision like, do you actually want to invest or opportunity costs are too high? So for the wrappers, it goes the same story. You need to have predictability. Like, can you have price tag fixed for you for 2 years, 3 years? What will happen if price tag will be changing? If you're buying a solution and on top of that paying for OpenAI, what is going to happen? Did you notice that around a month from the current conversation back in the time, Anthropic silently increased the prices? We didn't market it as a price tag increase. We market like we reworked the tokenizer. But what community experience was a noticeable difference. How much is the same inquiry you're making to the AI is taking the amount of tokens. And it was, I think, 1.5x or something like that. So you're paying the same price tag, but for the outcome, you're getting 1.5x less. Sorry about the balloons coming from the Mac.
No worries. Yeah, that's an interesting part. And like, there is also like the dependence on AI models, on these big ones, like, Anthropic, as you mentioned. Like, what happens if, for example, they 5x the price, and then, like, does it actually make sense? So how do you actually prepare for that? Do you have like any alternatives if the AI costs go crazy even more than month ago?
What we are seeing historically, typically not the price tag hits you the most, but rather the change of model itself. Like OpenAI is releasing new models, Anthropic is releasing new models. And if you build some system and the new changes coming in for the systems that was working based on your prompts, based on the models you trained, if you're actually doing the training and so on, you cannot trust it anymore. Some change happened and your process is becoming broken because you don't know how the models will interact with your customers today because this is a new model. It's the same as you're hiring a new person. You have the same kind of onboarding materials when you're hiring the person. You're giving the same kind of instruction, but it's just a totally new person with new experience, new backgrounds. It's still a human. You expect the same. It's coming, I don't know, with sales, with support, customer support experience, but it's also a different human. So the same is coming with AI models changes. So for the price tag, what we are doing, we are training our own models. We are deploying on our customers' infrastructure. So you can think as a software version being locked for you. We are also doing this kind of testing, data comparison models and so on, just to make sure that outcome stays on the same level based on your previous conversations. We have a lot of small tools which we built into the full feedback loop, meaning each new model, each new changes is going through a quality assurance process coming again from our software, where you don't need to read or listen for 1 million of calls or 1,000 of the calls to make sure that, okay, nothing is broken. And when you're looking at the changes coming from the bigger vendors, either you are the safety net, meaning you're making the calls, you're doing the testing, or reading the transcripts in our business. In your business, reading the prompts outcome, checking against some kind of benchmark you made yourself. You're trusting as a model, as a AI, to do the work for you. But typically, the AI is more expensive in comparison to what you are using on runtime. So additional costs coming in for you. Or you're trying to lock in with open source models which can run locally and so on, which is coming with another side effect. Like you had a need to invest prior to launching it more heavier than just wrapping into a OpenAI API or something like that. So don't overlook this part, how to trust the model after model changes, not just price tag, but also the changes of model fundamentals itself.
So what you're saying is that the real kind of cost is in the change of the model and the behavior that the model now, it shifts with each new model. So for example, the new Opus 4.8, it's much different than the previous one. And just what kind of models are you using, and where do you think isLucid like differentiates itself from the other competitors?
From our perspective, we built full agentic system, meaning there are multiple models with a top model as an orchestrator. For our customers, price tag is important. So we don't use for simple questions like, where's my parcel, why it's being delayed. We don't use the most expensive models because everything has a price tag. For GPUs, for the runtimes, it has. So we are doing this kind of orchestration. If you have specific, harder to answer questions, we are using more expensive models. We use models which we trained ourselves with the built data sets for voice to voice, then speech to text, text to speech. And again, we are juggling. Sometimes we're using full voice to voice because it's demanding like real-time answers really fast, and it's more expensive. Sometimes we are having text to speech model answering you, which because you don't need as much speed and less resources. So it's just a farm, like multiple agents running on your stack. And how we differentiate ourselves, this farm is not calling to OpenAI. We have telecoms as customers, electricity providers like critical infrastructure, insurance companies, financial institutions from European Union, outside of European Union. But for you, it's heavily regulated markets. So for these customers, it's clear. We are meeting all the standards we have. We unplug the internet, meaning it's running like on your web private cloud or something, and isLucid is not failing. So this is our differentiator. We run where you need our models to be ran, and we don't hide OpenAI in behind. It's close it.
Interesting.
We don't hide it because we don't use it.
Okay, and most people are building like AI that is focused on more of the transcription side, and you went after kind of the verbal agreements specifically. Why do you think is it a harder problem?
So for me as a founder, it was a journey. When we started, it was like problem itself is interesting. Transcription was one angle, contract was another angle. And at some moment when we started, it was a different landscape of venture capital. Money was almost free, let's put it this way, because it was an economical cycle where everywhere you were hearing about insane valuations and so on. And we matured. the more mature we were, the more we were focusing, okay, what is the actual value for our customers? Excuse me. Meaning, what is nice to have, what is actually being reflected on our profit loss statement. And based on this, we understood that we need to go for the market where there are high volumes of the calls and conversations. Because from the high volumes, you can do the same kind of level of optimization. 20% of time saved, 30% of the time. But because it's thousands and hundreds of thousands of the calls, impact for the buying organization, it's much bigger than a smaller team of 5 or 10 people. So it doesn't mean that we don't care about 5 or 10 people. It more means that for the organization of hundreds of employees, we can create a bigger impact, and it will be a better justification why to pay for us. Because one of the key lessons I learned myself as a founder, each customer matters. No matter if I'm paying 10 USD for the service, I'm paying 10,000 USD for the service per month, my needs are the same. And for the good vendor, they need to be addressed on the same level. But if you're paying me 10,000 euros, I can dedicate much, much more effort to go deep dive into your process, make the solution working for your business case, for your not just for your vertical, but for your specific processes. And then we can maximize the impact for your organization. So we went from small business to mid-size and enterprises. It's turning to be a good decision we made.
It's interesting. And just I'm curious, how are you currently like acquiring new customers? Because I feel like AI is sort of a buzzword, and a lot of people are kind of against or skeptical very about AI, and or they just don't know what AI means. They think it's chatbots like Gemini and ChatGPT 5, and the use case is much bigger than asking it what's the weather like today or tomorrow.
Your question also has an answer. We are going for our customers by focusing on the actual use case. We are running direct sales as approach, and some of the marketing activities we are experimenting. But via direct sales approach, we are doing qualification. It's not a new thing in the sales process. Just how we approach it is we are super happy to disqualify you, even you want to buy us, as long as we are seeing that business case wise, we are not creating you value. So how we are doing with our first product insights, meaning analysis of the calls and so on, we do know realistically what amount of the calls we can address for you. And when we are coming to you and telling we will not replace your humans with AI, but there's 20 to 30% of the cases for delivery related questions for the e-commerces, 15% about returns. And for the other consultations, we are seeing 5 to 10% of questions when your physical stores are open, where are located, or you do have a specific item in those. We can tell you that addressable volume of the calls realistically will be around 50%, because AI will not be capable to answer all the human interactions. So again, you cannot just take bluntly the number, but we're adding additional like 80 to 90% of cases which we confirm is realistically addressable. Like, somebody's calling from super noisy environment, and no hospital or something. For me as a human, it's hard to understand like what is happening in this conversation. Can you repeat and so on? So for the AI, it goes the same kind of story. So we are not making promises or false promises for our customers. And instead we are telling like, okay, realistically for you, sometimes we are seeing cases, only 20% of the calls are using the same repeatable Lego blocks. So 20% of calls, you have 5,000 calls per month of average 2 minutes or something. We're doing some math, and we're telling, like, look, it's a great use case, what you want to address, but just have a second thought if your existing human labor won't be more affordable for you in comparison to AI. We don't want you to churn later on. Instead, we are not wasting your time, and we are like discussing like what's realistic now. And this is helping because instead of painting you super nice picture, which immediately triggers a bell if the on the buying person side, like it's too good to be true. I'm putting my skeptic's mask on, or skeptic's filter. Instead, we are coming from the skeptical background. Like, look, you came with the need. This is our realistic approach, which is realistic, which is data backed. How does it feel? And then we are turning from I like it, I don't like it perspective to, okay, numbers don't lie. Do I trust numbers, or I'm seeing some gap in the number? And gaps are to be closed. So direct sales and focus on actual value. And being open to ourselves. AI cannot replace everything. For AI, it's not a silver bullet. It's lead bullet for repeatable things. You just need just shoot, and you're hitting the target.
Okay, and wrapping this up, I wanted to ask you, like, what is something that you've learned in the past month or in the past half year about voice AI? And then secondly, where can people find you if they would like to reach out?
Oh, it's a tough question. I'm learning every day on Reddit threads and so on. I would say the key message I would like to leave our audience with. If you don't know how to onboard a new person for this function, this use case which you want to address with AI, if you don't know how to onboard a new person, AI won't be successful onboarded too. That being said, if you're using AI tools, you can learn and figure out how to onboard such a person. You can use AI again for internal processes and so on, just building your business case and so on, and you will end up with success. So, and another thing, we heavily invested into AI since the last year for internal processes too. If you are seeing a vendor which is selling you AI, but cannot explain how we are utilizing AI for their internal activities and so on, something is fishy about. For us, agentic approach is not just to sell for the customers, it's making our lives easier too on daily life. So I think each new day is a learning point. And you can find us at isLucid.com. We are not too active, but still we are posting recently on LinkedIn. And you always can drop an email to me, Vytenis at isLucid.com, and you can always have a chat and just look, like, can we create user value or disqualify you, but at the same moment to consult you, like, okay, how you can improve your sales and customer success processes better.
Okay, well, you guys heard it. So thank you, Vytenis, for joining today's talk, and I will leave links below so people can directly check you out. And thanks again for watching.
Thank you for having me. Hopefully it was helpful to you guys.